Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Conversations with Calvin. And I've been doing this for a couple of months, but this particular afternoon is particularly poignant and meaningful for me because it's mind expansive, and there's a lot to unpack here. So I'm with, and you can all see on the screen, I'm with members of the virtual worlds of Rutgers University. I'm with Rick Anderson, the director of Virtual Worlds. I'm with Rangoli Mittal, XR game developer, and Rana, senior project manager. And all of these titles actually doesn't mean I don't understand a lot of this. So I want to, here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of introduce everybody that can say a couple of words. And then to grasp you folks out there in the audience, we've got a 41-second trailer that we're going to air that will kind of motivate, stimulate, and get you in the mood for what's going to be unfolding here. Let's just start with Rika on the top left of my screen. Introduce.
All right. Hello, my name is Rika. I'm our senior project manager. I do some producer work for our department. I also help make sure our projects start off on the right foot, as well as support the team with anything that they need.
Rick.
All right. Well, I'm Rick Anderson, and I'm director of Virtual Worlds. And so I'm the director of the Game Research and Immersive Design Group at Rutgers. We bring game technology into the online learning world, and we kind of expand it out into extended reality and augmented reality and such fun stuff. So anyway, chief in the ringleading of all this kind of fun stuff.
Okay. Rangoli Mittal, next.
Hi, I'm Rangoli Mittal. So my title is XR game developer. So anything that's augmented reality, virtual reality, I do all types of stuff in terms of making it. So from designing it, making 3D assets, doing 3D artwork, and actually programming it.
Perfect. I wanted to say to everyone that we all met because of the 26th annual New Jersey Book Arts Symposium, which has been being held at Rutgers Alexander Library for 26 years. And it was you guys that rescued this most amazing event and put it together in Virtual Worlds. And of course, I got involved. And what I really wanted to say before we show the clip is one of my earlier interviews on Conversations with Calvin, I interviewed Sonia Yaco, who was in charge of the 26th NJBAS Book Arts Symposium. And there's so much she showed me. And then the demonstration of the virtual tour. I mean, I talked about it to my wife for days. It's like I'm there. It's beyond my, as an old timer, it's beyond my comprehension what you guys have done. So anyway, at this point, we're going to go to a trailer. And now we're going to begin to ask questions. So everybody, I need to know so much and learn. So question one, you had mentioned that the acronym GRID. What is GRID, and what is GRID's mission? I know it's game research and immersive design, but I don't know.
Yeah. So we have, I mean, it's all this world of acronyms and things. So yeah, so we're looking at what's in the research world of game technology. And we're looking at, you know, bringing people into the project. It can be a simple real world game. It can be a game that's just 100% virtual, but it's the idea of bringing some sort of immersion. And immersion oftentimes is like feeling you are there, feeling that you're part of the experience. And since we're at an educational institution, our group is part of a group called Teaching and Learning with Technology. So when it comes to incorporating games, we're the go-to group for that. And it's really wonderful because it takes online education and says, let's immerse a little bit more. Let's get a little more feeling. Let's make this not sort of a boxy situation. Let's make this something where I can feel connected and feel part of something. So that's that immersion. And when we work with technologies of virtual reality, for instance, you have to think about what's the immersion there, right? How do we do that? How do we make those connections? If you're doing augmented reality, you're like, how do I manage it with my phone? I've got to see through this, you know? So we're always like connecting the technology, but the why and the feel and the emotion, without those, you know, it's pretty dry and just a bunch of bullet points.
Okay. I'm beginning to comprehend. Well, this would be a great achievement. So I guess next, logically, each one of you can explain who does what. You know, what are your roles? Top left, Rika.
Right. So again, hi, I'm Rika. So I help make sure that communication stays up to date with the clients, with our partners, collaborators, and that everyone on the team is also informed of what's going on. I also try to help pull the strings and keep everyone together in terms of like what's going on in a project. And I'll support the main developer on the project, the lead, with anything and everything that they need. So if it's a silly little task, don't worry about that. I can handle it.
Okay. Rick.
All right. So I go out for the ideas. So I meet with people and I talk about the technology, but I also talk with them and I try to figure out where these are the matches and the connectors. So yeah, so I talk with lots of people, we brainstorm lots of different ideas, and it takes a while before a project becomes reality. So my goal is to chat and talk and get to the heart of what somebody wants to do and then bring it to the team. So that's like my sort of main function. But again, it's incredibly fun to be able to go and talk with people, everything from like hazmat training. How would we do this on cards? How would we do this with virtual reality? How would we, you know, use a cell phone to identify things? It's just so many creative questions. And I think with the NJ Book Arts Symposium, we actually had such an interesting connection. So my job of talking with people was like, talk to Sonia and find out and bring her to the team. And it's a real live, beautiful example. And I just point out that Rika is also champion of our clients. She's not just sort of like, here's a bunch of technical things I do. She's like, hey, this is the problem they're trying to solve. So, I mean, she can speak more to that, but it's sort of looking at the importance of what somebody's trying to do and translating that into all of those technical things that she's already gone through.
Rangoli.
Yeah, so my part generally comes in after the brainstorming session is done. So once the project is brought to the team, we kind of all work together to figure out how to make a final project that will fulfill all of the client's wishes. And then I start breaking it down into like what needs to be done and building it out. So it's a lot of the development work that happens.
It's a little off topic, but with this whole new world that we've been in for 9 months, and the whole future of a whole new world where people are going to be working from home, I don't think there's a sociologist or psychologist who can understand or grasp, or economist, how this world of ours is going to change. But somehow not being hugely Orwellian, I see the work that you're doing coming into so much more prominence and utilization. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's that what I would say one of the things that's really fascinating is that Zoom and WebEx and all of these tools are a medium of communication. And so we are shaped by the tools we use. So we get access to things we wouldn't normally get access to, but we also have some basic limitations of the technology can only do so much stuff. If you tried to do collaborative live playing of music, it's a crazy problem because when do you start? Who's officially directing? And are we playing together, right? So we have to kind of think about that in terms of, well, I'm having a meeting and I'm trying to connect with people and I'm trying to communicate. And sometimes the timing is off. Sometimes the lag is there.
Okay.
You don't have all of the senses in the way that you have in real life. And I think in virtual reality, it's a pretty clear thing. You don't have a lot of senses and you have to virtualize them to make them a thing. So it's a weird scenario where we give up a little bit to get a little bit more. So, so in virtual reality, you give up a lot to have an immersive experience where you're not where you are. Whereas we're trying to create experiences where we are, but bring it to somebody a little bit and learn a little from them. But we're doing it in little boxes, right? We could have many cameras. We could have, there's all kinds of things you can do: backgrounds, foregrounds, animated characters. So the ways in which we could in the future do what we do now might give us more expression, but we're limited by that technology.
Okay. How did you, I don't know if you touched on it directly, but how did you decide to partner with New Brunswick, Rutgers New Brunswick Libraries, and why did you do the project for New Jersey Book Arts Symposium? How did that all come about?
Yeah, well, that's definitely one of the things that's one of my roles. Talk with people and make connections and find out what they need and sort of get that going. So one of the things as part of our group is the libraries have always been a really good partner for us. So we've worked on them with multiple projects in the past, like 360 shots of the library so that people who go in and explore rooms in a library, for instance. So we've talked to them about various projects. And then Sonia was like, this New Jersey Book Arts Symposium is this big deal. It's been running for this very long time. And we really need to brainstorm some options here and figure out what could we do. And so one of the technologies that my group has been working on is centered around the idea of social VR, so social virtual reality. And there's a project that's an open source project from a group for the people who make Firefox, make a thing called Mozilla Hubs. And that's drop-in virtual reality where I can drop in from my phone, I can drop in from my computer, I can be a VR headset and I can drop in. And this is the technology that we've been bringing to Rutgers because it's really well defined. It does what it does and it gives people some self-service capability. But in the long story short, it was like, okay, this technology I think will be really useful to the type of problem you have. You want people to meet and engage as a conference. So how are we going to translate that, right? So that's the problem and the discussions I had with Sonia that were so awesome. And then we brought Sonia and her group to my group. And so that's where like Rika would be one of the key elements. And we bring the team together to then engage both groups to sort of brainstorm. So I was just like, this is logically a good fit. And it's an important time to create these engagements that help people feel like they're maybe in a gallery and exploring. So that's what I got to the table and I flipped it over to the team.
I need to reiterate to the viewers out there that it's almost essential that you go back on this channel and look at the interview I did with Sonia. And you can see the work of what you guys did to create this symposium. And I could swear I'm walking around. I mean, he even had me sign in a book, you know, and even have a glass of wine.
Yes, we paid attention to some of the critical details.
Incredible details. I mean, I'm right there, and then you know, funny.
Actually, that's a big shout out to Rangoli, and we have a few more people not in this like Kenny as well. So
Okay.
big shout out to, because this is like, again, I flipped the project over to the team, and then the team got to do this cool stuff, and I'm really proud of that. It's just so awesome.
It's so cool. And you know, it's funny, the takeaways, and you know, looking at the art, I mean, I could swear I'm walking around a museum. And I'm going to pay you a huge compliment, and I have to unpack the compliment. But walking around virtually, even on the wooden floors, you know, the reality is so amazing. So here's the compliment. You were so good, guys, that, and I said to my wife, after, you know, I watched all this, and I said to my wife, why bother going to a museum ever again? So that's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
What you did, and the ability to see the art up close and to be there. I mean, you know, why take a train into New York to go to a museum? I got you guys. Anyway, so that's for
there's
me.
still some technical issues we want to work through on that, but
of course.
But other than that, but yeah, that's what I'd love to hear, is that we got some of that experience. That's a little bit of that feel.
Right. Rangoli and our other game developer, game designer, graphic designer, Kenny Chen, the design team, we put in a lot of effort to make sure those tiny little touches were put in, like the wine table, and to making sure that it wasn't so obstructive, like the walls were a nice pleasant color, to make sure everything went together, just to make sure the person that went in this world felt welcome, felt like this would be a real place to visit. So props to Rangoli and Kenny.
Oh, it was I mean, just amazing, and I hope people really will jump in and absorb this. Were there any other design challenges that we just didn't talk about, and how you solved them when you bring this together?
Well, I can actually talk about the design process in general.
Okay.
So when Sonia and Amanda came to us, they had an idea of a gallery that they wanted, and they wanted it to be very similar to museums. As you've mentioned, we tried to make it. So the one cool thing about virtual worlds and virtual space is that you could actually build as many rooms as you want and kind of accommodate each artist. So that's what we did there. We wanted to showcase each artist and give them enough room to actually be shown. I think one of the really big challenges that we came across was, as we saw the artwork, we realized that it wasn't all flat and it wasn't all images. And one thing that we really wanted to capture that people would get if they went to the NJ Book Arts Symposium gallery in real life was that these were 3D objects. So I actually tried 3D modeling some of the artworks. And if you walk around, I think the accordion fold room, you'll see a few of the artworks as actual 3D models. So those were all modeled from the images, and we tried to represent their artwork as best we can so that it'll actually feel like what it would in real life. And you mentioned the wine table, and that's actually really funny because it definitely started out as a joke. When we were putting this all together, we were just like, what's in a gallery that would definitely be needed here? And we joked about having wine and cheese, even though it was virtual, just to show that it was a gallery opening. And then when Kenny and I were putting together the lobby area, we noticed that like we really needed a centerpiece there. And it just so happened that the wine and cheese table was a perfect fit.
That's great. I mean, you know, there's things that, you know, that kind of resonate with me. Wine and cheese.
Yeah, actually, one of the things in virtual spaces is actually the idea of food and taste, right? So you can do a cooking show on Zoom, but the actual taste and the flavor and the, you know, you're not really exchanging those, but our ideas of them are there, and what they mean to community still is there. So when you have the symbols, it actually impacts. So it was really cool to go, oh, abstractly, this idea is this really fancy one, and then put a wine and cheese table in, and you're like, Oh, that actually has this sort of connective power. It was so even like it's like sort of a joke kind of idea, but sometimes those turn into that inspiration too. So cool.
Because I focused on that, and
Yeah.
it kind of embraced me, and since that was my first experience walking around the virtual exhibit, that you've got some wine and cheese for me. So it was a warm, conducive, embraceable thing that you did, and it makes it even more real, if that makes any sense. Next, how does the space you created allow visitors to be even more immersed, if that makes sense?
So something that's really cool about the virtual worlds technology is that multiple people can enter the room at the same time. So one thing that we did for the symposium is we set up 6 rooms that people could drop in and out of, so that when they visit, they're actually there with other gallery visitors. And it also uses locational sound. So when 2 avatars are very close to each other, they can have a conversation.
Wow.
But if they're farther away, then they won't be able to hear each other.
Wow.
So as you walk through the gallery, it'll be kind of like you're in real life. And as you walk to someone, you can have a conversation with them. So there's little elements like that. Another one was the guest book. Every gallery opening that I've been to has had a guest book. And that was just like a small touch that we definitely wanted to add,
Right.
just to create that bit of immersion and bit of like, these are the things that you would experience.
That was great. So, overall, looking at post NJBAS, how overall in different corners, how was the project received in general?
Well, we heard from our clients, our partners, collaborators that they absolutely loved it. We were able to attend the opening night where they were able to show it off, and people were just absolutely amazed by the space, being able to be immersed, being able to touch the art without getting kicked out like you would in a normal art museum. That was well received. I think Rick had something to say, and Rangoli as well.
I was going to say one of the things that's also pretty cool is that the NJ Book Arts Symposium has the Zoom recordings of the event out there. So there's some pretty fun discussion that you can actually find where they talk about this. But I would also promote checking out the Zoom recordings because the artists were amazing. And so the conversations that we had between the artists and what we were doing. So a couple of times, like Rangoli got to do the big old presentation and talk to everybody about what she did. So I just would sort of do a shout out to them and say, definitely check those recordings out. And yeah, people are on live talking good stuff. So
Yeah, I did all that, not because I interviewed Sonia and I did this, but I did it, and this was a whole new world for me. In addition to your virtual world, the world of book art. You know, I didn't even have a concept of what it was. I thought there were books about art, but it's art that's books.
Mm-hmm.
And the creativity and watching, there was a woman out in California that has been doing this a million years. I forgot the name, but I mean, just how painstaking and the imagination, the creativity. So it behooves people to really check this. So I like to, in my interviews, and this is a little bit on the heavy side, but I like to go off topic a little bit and just ask one fun question, and each of you can, I'll ask the group and you can each answer it individually. So here's the scenario. Excluding family or friends, who would you like to, living or dead, but excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead, who'd you like to spend a day with during the pandemic?
I have an answer immediately.
Well, good. Let's hear it.
All right, it is Iwata from Nintendo. He passed away a few years ago, but yeah, he was just such a figurehead for Nintendo, and as Grid is a gaming or a gaming division, you know, gaming department, his way of talking about game designs, he was, I believe, the president or vice president, but he said something along the lines of, in my mind, I'm a developer, but in my heart, I'm a gamer. And like keeping that in mind, like while we're creating these immersive experiences, it's like, what would be cool? What would be fun for the person to experience while playing these games? So keeping that in mind, I think that's like kind of the core of Grid, keeping in mind like what would be good for the I guess the person playing the game or going through the experience, and what is in our power to make that better.
That's great. Next.
I like kind of want to piggyback off of that because one of the big influences for me is actually Walt Disney. Disney's storytelling and the way that they Imagineer things to make things very immersive, and their attention to detail is something that I strive for. So if I was going to learn from someone or spend time with someone learning, I think Disney would be my one influence.
Oh, wow. I love these influences.
You don't have to answer, or you could even come up with one or two. There's no rule.
No, these are so inspirational. Yeah, there's so many interesting, like so much going on. So I'm having trouble coming up with just one name, and then all of them are pushing them out of my head. But yeah, there's, oh my gosh, so many exciting people. You know, it'd be interesting to have time with a bunch of people, but only to pick one. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So
that's fine.
I might remember it soon.
That's fine. Back to business. What are other features of the virtual worlds platform we haven't discussed?
So we can actually talk about one of the other projects we did.
Sure.
For the School of Social Work, we built out a therapist office. And one of the features that we really like to showcase on that is that each room is customizable. So when a host creates a room, they can add accessories to a blank canvas to kind of make it their own. So I think that personally is a really cool feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the elements there is that we've got the drop-in environments so that the accessibility is that you can get to these spaces from your phone or the desktop. So the accessibility, I think we already talked about it, being able to get to the virtual space is always really key. One of the things that we've also done in addition, another project was the 360 imagery and bringing 360 images of, let's say, Rutgers campus, and then letting people walk through those and do some exploration. And so it's an interesting way of bringing the real Rutgers to people and students. And, you know, I think we're at the beginning of what kind of cool stuff you can do with that technology as well.
And what a beginning.
Oh.
It's beyond.
And I would add one more thing,
sure.
Which is that a lot of the stuff we're doing right now with Zoom, and we're talking to each other, and we've got all this tech here, you can do the same video conferencing, but inside the virtual world itself. So you can go with your phone, put your video camera in the world, see yourself, but also talk to other people and video conference inside the 3D spaces that we make. So that's including shared desktops.
Wow.
So I would say that's one of the things that the future is full of, is doing what we do in Zoom, but inside the virtual space. And this has some support for that, which is kind of surprising and cool.
And a very receptive world to this kind of change, because the world is so changing. You know, you read every day, and you've got a glut of apartments in the city, Manhattan, empty because people are running out of New York because they don't have to they're going to work from home from now on, and maybe creating a virtual environment. It's beyond. So one final question as we kind of wrap this up. It's almost like I could just keep talking and asking questions as I'm learning. So how does somebody that wants to kind of work with you guys and reach out? Is there a process how someone can find you and reach out and engage you?
Yep, absolutely. So one part of this is that since we're part of the Rutgers environment, we can always be reached through the hierarchical scenario. And then, of course, as soon as I did this, we have a quick URL that we can use. And I have now forgotten it. It's a go Rutgers something. So Rika or Rangoli, which one is it?
I am blanking, which is why I'm just sitting here smiling.
Well, that's right. Hey, people can find me and I can find you. So if anybody...
it's...
the go.rutgers.edu/njbas gallery. At the bottom of it, it has all of our contact information as
perfect.
well.
And that's what I'm going to be posting on the screen for everybody to see. So we've come to the conclusion of our virtual reality tutorial. And I cannot even begin to thank you guys enough for indulging me and spending the amount of time that you spent on this, because I know you've got so much on your plate. But this has been so wonderful. Again, I remind folks to go back and look at the interview with Sonia Yaco to see your work, and of course they would have seen now the trailer. And I just thank you guys so much for everything. And it is the holiday season, so merry, happy, healthy, all good things. Always go are you. And thank you for being here. And you know what? By the way, I've got an open channel here, which is always open to you, so we can create more content, whatever. So thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. It was really awesome, and we're ready to do this again.
I'm here. I ain't going anywhere. I sit right here. All right, to be continued. Thanks, everybody.